So, welcome everybody to the Anti-Harassment Team BoF. I'm Steve. We have Molly and Tina dialed in remotely. If you do need to talk to them, we'll see what we can do. When we were testing this yesterday, the audio from the room did not work too well for them. If it doesn't, I can always forward questions and comments. First things first, we don't want to call ourselves the Anti-Harassment Team anymore. I kind of spoiled this with a mail a few days ago. We want to be the community team. Names are important, as I'm sure many people will appreciate. Anti-harassment is immediately a negative way of describing things. If the anti-harassment team get in touch with you, that has negative connotations. If the community team get in touch with you to help you, describe how to make Debian a welcoming community, that hopefully has a slightly better way of has a better meaning. So this is a BoF. Please, this is not just me and Molly and Tina spouting. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear your ideas too. We're going to quickly go through who we are. We want to discuss a little bit about what Debian wants from our team, because this is a very important thing. And then we have a proposed scope of what we think the team can do. We want to obviously try and sync up those two sets of ideas. That's how we're hoping to go here. I have started a Gobby doc for this. If somebody or somebody's would be happy to put notes in there, that would be awesome. I will do my usual thing that I do with a DebConf session of I will send out summaries of discussion to the list and whatever later. Obviously, we only have a fairly small room, and we do want to make sure that everybody in the project is kept abreast of what we've spoken about. So, who are we? First of all, we are a self-organized team. We are not delegated. We currently have 3 people. Hi, I'm Steve. If I do that, then Molly can wave. Say hi, Molly.
Hi, I'm Molly. You might know me as Molly de Blanc. I'm not a database, but...
Right, and Tina, do you want to say something?
No.
I can hear you, it's just very quiet.
Yeah, Tina, you are very quiet. Okay.
Hello.
Yay. Ah! What did I do? Oh, I hit F5 while hovering over the wrong window. So, it'll be back in a moment, I hope. So, what does Debian want the community team to do? Here are some ideas that we've heard. Please expand on these if you think that there are more things we should be doing. We've been told that we should be helping to make Debian a welcoming place. We should act as a point of contact for complaints and incidents. We should be providing support for people running Debian events, like DebConf, obviously. We should be helping people to understand and work within the code of conduct. And what else? This is the point where you guys talk. Maybe not all at once, but maybe one at once would be a good start. Ian, can we pass microphones around? Right. Do we have, where do the mics go? Ah, there we go.
So I think that I would like the AH team to support not just people running events, but also people who are running Debian services and who have to, manage the particularly communication channels. So like IRC, mailing lists, bug system, any other thing like that, and to support those people to help them make Debian a welcoming place.
Cool.
I have a question about that, which is one of the discussions we've had a lot in the team is whether we want to be proactive or reactive. Like, so in your mind, how are you imagining that playing in?
That's a very good question. I didn't imagine that the AH team would be reading every bug report to see if it was nice, nor that it would be watching every IRC channel to see if it had some kind of incoherent ranting in it, because that would never happen on IRC.
Sure. And it is something that we need to agree on for scope. Obviously, individual members of the of the community team, will be around and watching various bug reports, various mailing lists, whether it's wiki pages or other random places where there is discussion and communication in Debian. But obviously, we're not going to be everywhere because we physically can't be. We know there aren't enough hours in the day. There aren't enough people. What we've been doing so far is mostly waiting on people to report problems to us. Yeah?
So you say report problems to you. Look to this camera. Oh, right. Hello. Yes. You say report problems to you. Some people have said that this framing already sets things up to be awkward. It might be worth thinking about a neutral framing where people just bring something to your attention,
sure,
or let you know about something, give you an opportunity to help in a particular situation.
Thank you. That is a better way of describing things. So report incidents, or ask for help, or just generally, pull us into a conversation where they think we might have some good input. Obviously, there are also places where we are going to be watching just because, whether coincidentally or just because we happen to be active in the right places, whether it's the development mailing lists or in the common IRC channels. We have been and will continue to be, I'm sure, proactive in cases where we think there is a problem. But that can cause issues too, and I'll come on to those later. Does anybody else have any ideas for what we should be doing? Molly seems to be being blown away by her fan.
It's the first time in over a week where it's been less than 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
And she's gone very quiet.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's my fault, or is it you? Or is it you guys?
No.
I can hear her perfect.
Hi, I'm just making jokes over here.
Where did... there we go.
Okay, once more?
Yeah.
Okay, this is probably the point where I refreshed and everything broke. My fault. At least I'll take the blame. So, we've had discussions around...
Both of them were talking to something. Tina was also saying something.
Oh, sorry, Tina?
We cannot hear.
Oh, yes?
I wasn't sure if you were wanting to add something there. No. Okay, fine. So we've had the question: should we be trying to do mediation? And that's a difficult thing to be doing. In terms of the number of people, who we have in the team, it gets very difficult. It's difficult to scale to be involved in every conversation, potentially. And B, there is a worry that maybe volunteers doing mediation without good training and without good support may also be a really bad thing to try. It might not help. Do people have thoughts about that? Well, come on. If you can come to the front, that also means that Molly and Tina get to hear you through my microphone as well.
So how about Debian gives you some support to train for mediation?
Sure.
It's something that exists and can be paid for, and it's something that would be useful to the project as a whole. I think a team
Sure.
that's trained to do it.
Yeah.
So why not do it?
Okay, Ian?
So I have a doing a little dance here. I have quite a strong opinion about mediation. At least mediation, as it is generally understood, the word. You know, if you look at like the Wikipedia definition or dictionary definition or definition that a lawyer might use, mediation is facilitated negotiation. You help the two sides to come to hopefully a mutually agreeable compromise. It does not address any questions of, you know, who has more of the right of whatever is going on. It does not work to address any power imbalances that may exist. And generally, mediation can work to even entrench existing biases and existing power structures, because it's a way where if you are already in the upper hand in some kind of situation, the mediator will explain very clearly to your interlocutor how bad it will be for them if they, you know, can't come to a negotiated settlement. Whereas for you, if you're in the better position, the mediator will find it more difficult to persuade you to compromise. I have engaged in mediation as, I suppose, a mediatee, and I found it. I'm quite strong-willed, as you all know, and I found it one of the most taxing experiences that I've ever had. And I came under intense psychological pressure to give up a thing that ultimately a judge decided I was entitled to. So I am really not a fan of mediation. Also, mediation is tremendously hard work for the mediator.
Yeah.
So, no thank you.
Okay. So, Tomasz.
But are we talking now about business mediation or just mediation between different members of community who disagree about some of the things? Because those two are totally different things.
Sure. So, there is some overlap, but yes, most of what we're looking at for here is between members of the Debian community, or in particular maybe where someone has made a mistake, or made repeated mistakes, or doesn't understand maybe how the tone of their argument or the arguments they're making fit into a welcoming community. And that can be really quite nuanced. It's not necessarily something, though, that you would consider mediation, maybe. Although I've heard people describe it as such between one member of the community and the rest of the community. It's difficult. Yeah, nods. Is there anything else that we should be trying to do directly with it as the community team?
Microphone. I'm not sure there's anything extra to add to that, but how can we help you?
Sure. So you might notice we're a small team to start with, at the very least. We are not going to be the only people who are trying to make Debian a welcoming place. What we actually want is for the whole of the community to work to make Debian a welcoming place, because that's how a community works. With there as a backstop, we will help when people need it, but we shouldn't, we're not going to be driving this, we're going to be supporting it. And there is a big difference, though. I hope people agree. The other thing that we are looking for is to grow the size of the team. Again, there are only 3 of us, and as you might have seen from a couple of recent incidents, say around Christmas last year, when you only have a small team, it can be very, very wearing. Getting involved in personal processes like this can be immensely draining. What we would like to do is, and in fact, if I select that, hit that, no, I didn't. Apologies.
Looking for more team members. Is that what you're trying to look for?
We are looking for more team members. Yes, specifically. Okay, as I said, there's not very much to that. I did have a different set of slides that we then decided not to go with.
Can I comment on that?
Sure, please do.
Great. And then I have another comment to make later. So joining the team kind of is this process right now. So when Steve joined the team, for example, there was kind of this trial period that went on for a little bit to give him an experience of what it's like to participate in the AH process, but also to kind of see how he matched with everybody else. And like, Steve is great, but there's also the question of like how trustworthy is someone when dealing with sensitive information. So I guess what I want to express here is that if you're interested in joining the team and you're a Debian developer, the bar of participation, like you don't have to commit to dealing with everything that's crazy all at once.
Sure.
You can try it out for a little bit if that's amenable to everyone.
Sure. So when we had a sprint a few weeks back, which I've sent out the sprint report about a few days ago. Where we are genuinely hoping to get to is not the team of 3 we have, maybe somewhere between 8 and 12. So we can get to the point where not everybody on the team has to be always on duty. Not everybody has to be worrying about dealing with every incident. We can have sufficient people that we can set up small subgroups, say 3 or 5, deliberately with odd numbers, if anyone is thinking about this, because there are lots and lots of good reasons for that. So we can consider cases, we can provide support without everybody having to be always busy. We are pondering about something like the LTS team have done, where there will be one member of the team who will be the point person for a week or so, and their job is to respond rapidly to incoming reports and requests for help, so that people do get timely responses. But that person's main job will just be to pass on to a subgroup of the rest of the team, and then just pass things over. Obviously, in more awkward cases, we would be expecting that there will be the option to pass on to a larger portion of the team. If there is a real problem and someone wants to appeal things, if somebody really genuinely wants to get more opinions, there is of course scope for that. But we want to get to a size of team where we can support Debian's needs without also burning out the people involved. Burnout has been a real problem, I know, for previous members of the AH team, which is why we've cycled through people so quickly. We want to be able to get to the point where we can have somebody coming in and working on this without having to take all the stress all the time, because obviously that's no good for anyone. There are a limited number of spoons to go around, to borrow Enrico's normal terminology. But we are genuinely looking for help. We have had 2. Sorry, did somebody want to say something? No.
No, I wanted to add that also I think it's a good idea that when the team is sufficiently staffed, since it's such a tiring job, such a demanding job, it's good for people to be able to retire.
Yes.
after not so long. Other
Sure.
teams might want people to stay for a long, long time, and it's possible. This team is difficult to stay for a long time without getting all your emotional energy drained out of it.
Sure. So, please.
My English is not so good, so I would a suggestion. What else could you do? I think promote more talks about privilege and about diversity in the conference and in other space too.
Okay.
And I would love to help with this. Sure.
Excellent.
Yes, and people that are. I'm just like nearby the Debian community, approaching, and these people can be in the group too, or it's better like people that already in the collective, so no other people.
Okay, so that's some very good questions. So what we genuinely need, unfortunately, we don't feel comfortable with having non-Debian developers be part of the team directly because of the privacy needs. There are genuinely going to be times. Okay, there are genuinely going to be times where privacy matters or private matters are going to be discussed. We implicitly trust members of the Debian project directly to deal with that correctly. For non-Debian developers, non-recognized Debian contributors, obviously there is more of a problem there. We are genuinely happy to take help on all kinds of other things, like you say, so discussions about diversity and privilege and general support, because it's a wide community and we all need to hear those. The other piece that we need to do, sorry Andy, I'm waffling on, is we also want to grow the team so we have more diverse experiences, more diverse viewpoints, so that we can genuinely have more understanding of where people come from. I mean, hell, I am a rich, white, straight guy from Western Europe. I tick almost every box on the privilege scale. I try not to abuse it. Genuinely, I think I'm a reasonable guy. Of course I do. But I can't help but have some bias. Everybody does. So it's important to us that we have good representation of every community, of every part of the community, also inside the community team, so we have the right experiences and the right backgrounds to draw on.
To come back to what Tina was saying earlier about the fact that people will need to retire a lot sooner. Is it possible to have effectively a rolling front line for the community team, such that you don't burn out? You maybe take a month or
exactly.
To a smaller group of people to hand in.
Exactly, and that's what we were hoping for, is to have, we can have a person, or we can have a set of people doing the front end. We can have a set of people working for a month to support stuff and then taking a month off. Obviously, we're going to need a lot more people to make that happen, and that's where we want to get to. So, Deb, please come grab Mike. Sorry.
I wanted to tag on what you said about sort of positive stuff, and I was wondering if the change in the team name sort of reflected a desire to do more sort of proactive stuff. And I was wondering if some of those things might be like teaching more people to get to folks a little earlier before it's been like, for instance, like 300 posts on a mailing list where it's more like teaching the community in general, like, hey, here's how we call people in when they seem to be getting really staticky, like, and we all know how to do it, so that instead of 300 posts later where like now everyone is mad, like more folks feel empowered to kind of be like, Steve, you're kind of extra today on the mailing list, rein it in, or something like that.
Absolutely, that is where we want to get to. We want to be encouraging more members of our community to step up and help in exactly those situations, and call on help if they feel that there are problems, or feel that they need extra support from the community team. We want to make things welcoming immediately, not be trying to clamp down on a flame war that's already 3 weeks old. Definitely. Of course.
I would.
Molly, yes.
I'd like to say, just to be clear on things, right now we're not interested in taking on responsibility of, like, serious responsibility.
Can we get Molly to just use?
So.
I'm just going to kill the video from this end in case that helps.
Yeah.
So.
I was just saying that I think I speak for the team when I say we're not interested in taking on serious education issues right now. Like, we don't want to have to explain microaggressions on a major proactive community-wide basis. But we are definitely interested in working with individuals when they have things come up, and periodically sending reminders to email lists, especially during heated periods, about, like, education-related issues.
Sure.
So I have a question. Is the community team interested in, I mean, there are situations that call maybe for some, maybe where some help is needed that aren't about, somebody just like behaving badly, but we sometimes have situations where maybe a maintainer isn't kind of being very responsive or engaging constructively. We've already got the, MIA team if somebody completely disappears, but you sometimes find, I don't know, all the maintainer will do is knack you, and they won't, like, help you to solve whatever your problem is. Is that too difficult a problem? Is that too broad a problem? Is that something you're looking at?
I think that's probably too broad from where we're really thinking, definitely for now. And of course, again, there's a scaling issue. With a small team, we really can't get into that. We might do in future, but it's not our focus, at least now, for now. I think that's fair to say, Molly? Tina?
Yeah, I'd agree.
Okay, thank you.
Ian, were you sounding a bit like TC Light there?
Yeah, that's your spin.
I have a question for the audience when there's a lull. Is there kind of a lull?
Yeah, go for it.
Right. I'm curious, what kind of powers, if any, do you think the community team should have? Like, what kinds of things do you think we should be able to do that would impact the rest of the project?
I'm hearing lots of indrawn breaths around the room, but no one really with. Ian, of course, will talk to us, and Gunnar is coming forwards.
I can give an example, if that helps. I can't see you raise your hands, but, like, do you think, for example, perhaps there might theoretically, some point, hypothetically, be a situation where there's a blog people think should be removed? Do you think that's the kind of thing that the AH team should take directly into their hands? Or
So, the community team, remember.
Somebody else to do it.
Yeah, my take on this, and well, that's what I wrote on a given mailing list not everybody has access to, is that the community team may not even have formal powers, but it should be a group of experts that are listened to by the relevant people that ultimately take the decisions. I think we don't have to move to shake our ways of working, but the relevant people should know, I mean, to listen to what you as a collegiate group suggest, because it's not a random developer suggestion, but people recognized by being experts in their area.
Okay.
But what about if you need to deal with something, and then the community team has decided that there should be something to be dealt with, and then they go to the next team and they're all on vacation, and then it takes 2 weeks, and maybe something really bad is on the web or something. Shouldn't you be able to maybe really do something?
Sure.
What do you think?
That's a very good point. So, sure. Or in fact, what happens if everything's on fire? There is an absolute, there is something that needs fixing immediately. We were talking about, as I said, at our sprint, about making sure that we would have, say, emergency points of contact at least for all of the relevant places, whether that's list masters or planet admins or even FTP masters or something, or depending on how things are going, so that we can deal with that without having to take matters into our own hands. I think that's how we would like to go, so we don't end up having to do things directly ourselves. From experiences recently, it can be problematic. Daniel?
I think what would be really helpful is if there is a kind of escalation ladder that you publicly describe. So, like, the first time there's an issue that you were made aware of it that you think you need to act upon, you talk to the developer, to the maintainer in private, kind of explain the issue, stuff like that. Score 1 point. Then you go and kind of make it more public, like a warning on a mailing list or something like that. And a third level or a fourth or fifth or sixth, you're the experts, I'm not. Maybe that you submit a request to list masters for a temporary disabling of that account, or to DAM, like, there's a problem with this person, we tried it, but doesn't seem to be fit, needs a more severe type of warning, timeout, whatever. I think the important thing is that this is transparent. So there is this list, it is the same for everybody, and when the list is triggered, at least in the public pieces, it is made explicit. It is like an email from you that says, like, this is your second warning, or this is your second and final warning, or something like this, and everybody knows, who's kind of aware of the process, this is where it's at, and right, so because that's then fairness, right? I think in the past with the cases that have been discussed at length, the problem was it was completely hard to see what is fair or not, and then people came up and had kind of all these subtle feelings, and then it escalates from there. So transparency in that thing is, I think, the major thing.
Okay. Deb, do you want to grab? We got another mic here.
I wanted to add to that, because I'm on a couple of other mailing lists, that whatever the process is, I'm very +1 on transparency. You want to balance the stuff you're subjecting other people to with the whoever is on notice or whatever we're calling it. And I know there are other mailing lists that have an intermediate step where that person's posts to the mailing list have to be moderated before they go to the rest of the list. So that might be one way to balance that. So if someone has, 2 strikes, and then it's like, okay, you can still stay on the mailing list, but someone looks at your post before they go and do harm to the rest of the community. If it's fine, it's innocuous, you've got your blood down today, cool. If it's not, then we're going to say, hey, this is what we talked about. So just kind of tagging on, like, that might be one of the steps in that transparent process.
Yeah. And coming up with that kind of process was exactly one thing that we spoke about at the team sprint a few weeks back. We want, of course, genuinely, the last thing we want to be doing is trying to scare people to the point where they're not saying anything. We don't want to be picking on people who use the odd bad word or have a bad day and are frustrated and complain. What we're trying to pick up on is the places where there is a genuine pattern of someone, repeatedly, clearly not wanting to play by our rules, not wanting to be welcoming, not following the code of conduct, however you describe it. And definitely we want to have a process where we will be able to keep track of reports from people about problems, about failures like this, and then we can start actually picking up on the patterns. If someone is occasionally being frustrated, we all are. We all know that. If someone is repeatedly, genuinely picking up or causing problems with their words, with their actions, we will start by talking to them to say, hey, are you aware that you are really, really annoying people, you're making people be frightened, threatened, offended, whatever the need is. If there is a continued pattern beyond that point, that will be absolutely where we will start to share our concerns with the FTP masters, not necessarily, or the list masters or the planet people, not immediately to say, we recommend that you do this, but here are our concerns and here are the incidents that we have looked at. Here is a pattern that we are worried about. We're not going to say, please remove this person. What we're going to say is, we think there are concerns here, what do you think? And then go from there. So we will then let the appropriate teams with the right powers have the information they need at that point.
I think
Something I would like to really emphasize here is that the goal of the team is not to punish people who do something wrong once. It's to help people, help the community be a more welcoming place and help people become more comfortable interacting with that community, with our community. So we don't expect perfection. We just expect people to try to do better.
Right, that's perfectly fine. And I think this is the aspect that people have been asking, try to educate people, try to set examples, try to tell people what is desired behavior, which is much more important than just, punish the single point of not desired behavior. But honestly, I'd say it is completely fair to go to the list masters or do a DAM with a request. Because, if you are doing this and if you are seriously working through a transparent and well laid out process, then at the end you must have an opinion what a list master should be doing with this person as the next escalation level. And you may be having a typical recommendation of a 1 month timeout or so on the first case and 6 months on the second, whatever. So, you make everybody else's life much easier if you're honest about it and say please remove the person for a period of time, please remove him indefinitely, please kick him out of the project. Because you're not kind of, having all the know-how, having all the background, have all the tools, and then you're saying yeah, but do something. Because then we get into the randomness thing again, right? I think the other teams would really like a recommendation. They will do checks and balance, that's good, right? They build their own opinion, and if they follow your recommendation, then the action will take place. And if not, you get a feedback loop where you may have, missed a step, may not have had all information, whatever.
Sure. Did I see? Yeah, Sam has his hand up.
Do you want to respond first?
No, go for it, Sam.
So, just as a point of information, we have received, at least from DAM, that they specifically do not want recommendations.
Other teams may want recommendations. This is the kind of thing that over time, as we get a better process here, we may end up with a better feeling about how each of the other teams, what they would like from us. We definitely want to make sure, at the very least, we have a good record to show what a pattern of problems before we move on, that kind of thing.
I think I would like to add to what Molly
Tina.
was saying.
Yeah.
Thanks. What I would like to add to what Molly was saying is that our goal, the main goal, is to make the community more welcoming, a good place to be, and definitely punishing anybody is not a goal. It's it's a failure for us, for a community, for everybody. We don't want that. We want to help people as much as possible, but at the same time, I think our main responsibility is to protect the rest of the community, the most vulnerable in particular, and so I think that's what informs what we do, and then we let other teams that are separate from what we have seen, so they can take a decision on what is the appropriate response.
Sure.
Which is our concern is to make it good for everybody to be in Debian.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to say.
I'd like to point out that we have only a few minutes left, if I recall our time correctly. So do we want to do some sort of wrap up or final thoughts?
if you have one thing to say, please go.
One thing that I do want to say. Now, many of you will have known me a long time, and I have always been, I have struggled with being nice to people. It's not something that comes naturally to me. And I've been on the wrong end of the community team more than once. And I would just like to thank the community team for the excellent way that they have dealt with me in those situations. And they have really helped me improve. I think they've helped Debian. I'm perhaps in, most of you probably helpfully won't have had that experience. But as somebody who was trying to work on this stuff, I'm just really very impressed.
Thank you, Ian. So, yes. You didn't see Molly making a heart symbol behind your back. So, moving on from this, we do have, as I said, if we can find where the pointer's gone. Oh, no, it's not going to work. We have started work on a scope document of what we think we should be doing. Thank you, everybody, for the feedback today and the ideas. There is clearly, thankfully, a massive overlap and a massive agreement between what we think is needed and what at least the people here think is needed. We are going to be working with Sam and sending out that document very soon for, well, let's be honest, to be beaten up on the mailing list and, not as the document and pulled and pushed into shape, and hopefully get to a point where we can get good project buy-in, because we know that there have been problems in the past where not everybody agrees with what we're doing or what we're trying to do. Clearly, we want to improve on that while we're trying to improve the feel of the Debian community. Please watch out for that coming soon. Again, especially if you've been talking here today and you have good ideas, please join in on that process. And genuinely, if you are interested in helping us, and you would like to join the team, please mail. We don't have our new mail alias set up yet. Send mail to the antiharassment@debian.org alias and talk to us. We would love to hear from you. Again, we're looking for a nice, big, friendly, experienced, diverse group here so that we can cover all the bases, have a lot of good experience, and help to make the community better. So join us if you can, if you think you have the skills. It is not a commitment for life. We will let you go every now and again. Thank you, folks. So, thank you to our remote participants, Molly and Tina. You wouldn't believe how much hassle this has been to make the video work, but it's awesome to have all three of us here talking live with everybody here. We genuinely do appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Bye, guys.